Hi, James. Welcome to the Big 550.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
So what's the breaking news this week from the electric car industry?
Well, I think from my perspective, it's the fact that here at this conference that you referenced in D.C., there's been very little noise made by the manufacturers of these cars. As you said, General Motors, we've got the Chevy Volt, Nissan Leaf, Honda Accord Hybrid, all these different manufacturers are represented. However, the news and the energy and the real focus is coming from something else you referenced there, which is components of the infrastructure. You've got big industry here, Bosch, 3M, some real big industrial money and investment and time and energy going in to getting that infrastructure out there. I saw a presentation yesterday from 4 or 5 different companies that have, they seem to be at this point kind of divvying up the country to get an infrastructure of charging stations out there across the land. So, again, for me, the news here is not that we've got some electric cars, but we've got an electric industry really kicking on.
Now, I know that Tesla, Elon Musk's company, has been talking about building out some stations across the country, but as I understand it, they would only fit into Tesla cars. It's like an Android plug is all that's available.
That's an excellent analogy, yes. You're right. What we're talking about here at this conference is not really so much what Tesla's doing, but all the other manufacturers and the charging system that they support. So it would be non-exclusive. It would be the idea that whatever electric car you buy, whether it's a full electric that requires electricity to get down the road, doesn't even know what gasoline's for, through a plug-in hybrid or electric vehicle like, say, the plug-in Prius or Chevrolet Volt, that you could stop at a Starbucks or a Walmart or a department store, grocery store, and there would be a battery of plugs out there available. And so when you stop in to get yourself a muffin and a latte, during that 15, 20 minutes, you'd be able to take a fast charge, get you up to about 85% of the charge in that short amount of time, and carry on your day like you do stopping at a gas station.
Because one of the problems that the electric cars have now is that the batteries can only retain enough power to get you going, in some cases, only 40 or 50 miles before you need a recharge, right?
Well, the ones that are claiming that sort of range, and it's even less in vehicles like the Toyota Prius hybrid, or plug-in, I should say, those are balanced by having gasoline engines on board. All the full electric vehicles on the market today are in the average of 75 to 105 on a full charge, miles that is.
Okay.
So, yeah, there's nothing that's full battery that's in that range. If you're hearing anything with a driving range of that low of a mileage, that means it's also got a gasoline engine on board to carry you on.
All right. So how long is it going to be before we build out this infrastructure?
It seems to be happening now. I mean, I think the key point and the way to think about this is that this is not there's not going to be a proverbial flip of a switch that's going to then make all these things pop out. This is kind of like the second batter in the first inning of a long baseball game. This is going to be a slow transition, but the point is, I think what we've really learned here in D.C. is that the transition's on, and it's not going backwards. You're not going to put this genie back in the bottle. And so I'm thinking you're going to start to see more and more charging stations pop up around the country, as I say, especially at places where people kind of stop and congregate for commerce already. But I think from most of the presentations I saw yesterday, you'd be pretty hard-pressed to not know where one is in your town over the next 2 or 3 years. You
mentioned that private industry is involved in doing this. What is government's role?
At this point, it's really just kind of guiding to make sure that standards are upheld. There's very little as far as investment from the government in this infrastructure element, and I think that's right. It really has to be a commerce or a business-driven decision because, again, the smart companies will recognize that there are going to be people out there with these electric cars, especially the full electrics that require electricity to get down the road, that are going to be searching out these stations. So, let's say you and I decided to open up a coffee shop. We'd be fools to not at least put 1 or 2 of them in front of our shop because people will then, I don't want to say be forced to come, but it will have a natural attraction to come to our destination.
Right. So explain.
That's the big difference.
Explain to my audience how this would work, because we're all familiar with pulling into the Phillips 66 and putting the nozzle in the car and the gas flows and we're good, and we pay for it with our credit card. Would an electric charging station be essentially the same concept?
Very similar, yeah, except it would cost you a lot less than when you go stop at a gas station. In fact, even with the added profit of, for paying for the establishment of that charging station, you're looking at probably being able to, put 100 miles worth of range on your vehicle for just a couple of dollars. So it'll be an incredibly cost-advantageous idea. But yes, you're right. The premise is that you would come in and, say like you had your phone, you plug it into the wall, so to speak, give it that charge. The charging stations that will be in public spaces like this will be of the 440-volt or fast charge style, not something that you could, have installed at your house. At the house, we expect to see an infrastructure of people putting 220-volt chargers there. So it takes a little bit longer on 220 overnight, like you would charge your cell phone. But yeah, to answer your original question, the premise would be that you'd pull into the stall there, open up the little door on the side of your car, plug it in, go off and have a nice 20 minutes doing what you got to do, and come back and you'll be ready to roll.
One of the other obstacles to people buying electric cars is the price points. Have they come down enough where consumers are actually looking at them as an option?
Yes, they are in the process of doing that. I mean, there's been a lot of talk in the media about, these electric cars aren't catching on. Again, I caution to have a little perspective that, when it was horse-drawn carriages to gasoline cars, they didn't happen overnight. It takes a while. It takes transition. It takes people coming back in the marketplace and deciding to do something different. But to answer your question about pricing, yes, the industry has responded. Let's see. Nissan has introduced kind of a decontented version of their Nissan Leaf to get more interest there. We recently introduced some incentives on the Chevrolet Volt. There's a new Chevrolet Spark EV, a full electric car, which comes with a $199 lease option. So yeah, these are very affordable cars. But I think really what the perspective that needs to be seen is that these are not going to be cars for everybody right away. I mean, as an example, my wife drives 10 miles a day, if that. She'd be a perfect candidate for a full electric car.
Yep.
I drive probably more in the range of 75 to 80 miles a day, sometimes even longer. So a full electric car is not right for me. A plug-in hybrid would be best for me. And that's what's exciting. You've got this range or the spectrum of choice, which I think is something we've never had, because in the past, you knew your car was going to be driven by gasoline. Yep. Now you've got some options.
It is fascinating watching this industry develop. I wish it would go a little bit more quickly, but I'm glad to see that it is moving forward, and I'm glad to hear there are conversations about building out the infrastructure as well. James Bell, the head of consumer affairs for General Motors, thanks for joining me today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
James Bell, who's live at the Electric Drive Transportation Association 2013 annual meeting in Washington, D.C. this morning. Here with Paul Harris in for McGraw on the Big 550 KTRS.